For 300 years, the Romanov dynasty ruled 1/6 of the Earth's surface. With an iron authority that seemed eternal, unbreakable, God-given. And yet, nothing built by men lasts forever. But by the dawn of 1917, the Russian Empire was a body in collapse. No longer a superpower, a relic. Bleeding from a world war, it was never equipped to fight, while its people starved in the streets of its own capital. What happened next was not merely a riot. It was the total, irreversible collapse of an ancient social order. 3 centuries of imperial power crumbling in a matter of weeks. This is the story of how a fringe group of disciplined radicals, the Bolsheviks, leveraged a nation's chaos into the most consequential political seizure of the 20th century. This was the birth of the Soviet Union. The abdication of Nicholas II in March 1917 did not bring stability to Russia. Instead, it tore open a wound that could not be closed. It created a dangerous political paradox that historians would call dual power. 2 governments, 1 city, 0 authority. On one side stood the provisional government, a fragile coalition of liberal politicians who dreamed of transforming Russia into a Western-style democracy. Educated men, reasonable men, men who believed in process, in law, in patience, men who had no idea what was coming for them. On the other stood the Petrograd Soviet, a grassroots council of workers and soldiers, forged in the heat of revolution. They had no formal authority, but they had something far more dangerous than any of that: the genuine loyalty of the masses. The provisional government had all the responsibility and none of the real power. Their fatal, irreversible error, the one that sealed their fate, was their refusal to end the war. While the people flooded the streets demanding 3 simple things: bread, land, and peace, the men in power remained committed to a shattered, blood-soaked alliance. They were speaking a language the people had stopped listening to. But in August 1917, the government panicked. They opened the weapons depots. They armed the Bolsheviks, the very men who had sworn to destroy them. Armed, organized, furious, the stage was set for a strike that would change the world forever. What followed was not the romantic chaos that history books describe. This was less like a mass uprising and more like a surgical operation. Cold, precise, meticulously timed down to the hour. On the night of October 24th, 1917. As Petrograd slept in uneasy silence, Red Guard units moved through the darkness, quietly, deliberately. They were not storming barricades. They were performing surgery on a living city, seizing its vital organs, one by one. Small squads quietly took the telegraph offices, cutting all communications to the outside world. Then the power plants, controlling the city's heat and light. Then the bridges, sealing off all escape. There were no grand battles, no heroic charges, just disciplined men moving through the dark, executing a plan to the letter. By the cold gray dawn of October 25th, the city had changed hands, not with a roar, but with a whisper. The provisional government was a ghost of itself, ruling nothing, commanding no one. At 9:40 in the evening, the cruiser Aurora fired a single blank shot into the night. It was not meant to destroy. It was meant to announce. The Winter Palace was next. The so-called storming of the Winter Palace was in reality a slow, deliberate infiltration, room by room, corridor by corridor. As the ministers were arrested, Lenin stepped before the Congress of Soviets and announced the birth of a new order. The Bolsheviks had achieved the impossible. Lenin wasted not a single hour. He moved with ruthless surgical speed to dismantle everything the old world had built over centuries. Within hours of seizing power, the decree on land was issued, abolishing private land ownership overnight, stripping the aristocracy of estates held for generations. The old hierarchies, nobility, clergy, generals, were incinerated in the fires of an ideology that showed no mercy and offered no compromise. The decree on peace ended Russia's catastrophic involvement in the World War, a move that saved millions of lives. The price of peace was devastating. Britain, France, and Japan turned their backs on Lenin overnight. In March of 1918, Lenin relocated the capital behind the ancient walls of the Moscow Kremlin. The men who had planned revolution from exile in Zurich were now administrators of the largest country on Earth. Their victory had created a fault line that would split the globe for 7 decades. But beyond the cities, the White Armies were already massing. Former generals, monarchists, foreign powers, all united by a single purpose: to destroy what had just been born. The revolution had been won in the span of a single night, but the war for the soul of Russia was just beginning.